Welcome back to the Elevate Your Best podcast. My name is Michael Danklaus of Elevate Your Best.
And I'm Bruno Martins from the Cyber Journey.
Today, we're talking about affirmations. So what we repeat, we are going to see more of. Many times we get stuck repeating in our head all the things that we don't want instead of the things that we do. My belief is that the first is limiting beliefs, things that hold us back. And the second is powerful affirmations, positive affirmations at that. So if we look at the word abracadabra, it means, as I speak, so will it be. It's what stage magicians have used for a very long time. And I feel that these things that we repeat in our head is the same thing. As we speak it, as we bring it into being, as we put it out to the world, it's like casting a spell on ourselves. The question is that spell going to be an enchantment, something that's going to add to us, or is it going to be a curse, something that's going to take away from us? So that's kind of the approach we're going to talk about today around affirmations. So let's seek a way to enchant things in our lives. So Bruno, for you, when was the last time that you caught yourself in one of these limiting beliefs?
Oh, limiting beliefs. Michael, I have a lot of limiting beliefs. The tricky things about them is that they are all unconscious. They are all, otherwise they wouldn't be so limiting. Usually we are unconscious of our limiting beliefs. So when was the last time I caught myself with some of those? Oh, I have a nice example. So recently I am finding a way, as you know, of executing a project that I have, which is a game on the blockchain that will have a bunch of interesting features, and it will be related to education. So there is a lot of aspects to this project. And what I realized recently is that I already have today access to all the steps necessary to launch this project that other people do. The major game right now that has this aspect is Axie Infinity. And I always knew how those projects were launched, but I always thought that they were not in my reach. But then I realized that Axie Infinity, they launched an NFT. They had resources, they made development, but they founded their projects with an NFT launch. I can mint NFTs, I can launch NFTs. And I realized that it's more a matter of positioning, relationship. The things that makes hard for me to launch these projects is, for example, I don't have the resources to develop in the blockchain. So I need to be connected with people that develop in the blockchain. I can connect with people that have this knowledge. So I started to realize that actually many of the things that I thought were beyond my reach are actually within my sphere of influence. They can happen. So this is a limiting belief that I am deconstructing in my head currently at the moment.
So if you were to distill that, what you just said, what was the limiting belief underneath that?
Maybe that certain things are not for, I don't have access, I can't build a business, I can't find funding. There's a lot of limiting beliefs that are related to that.
So if you
because I come from a very scarce background, and my mother, she always told many things like only make money who has money, like the only people that make money are the people that have money, like that I should find a job, that this is not for me. Oh, if you want to create your business but you don't have money, this is not for you. Things like that, like not exactly this, but in this area of that many things are not for us. We don't have it, we won't have it, things like that.
Got it. So that would be a curse that you cast on yourself.
That definitely is. Those are, as we mentioned before in our previous podcast, hidden agreements of sorts.
There are those agreements that we've made of, I'm not made out to be that person. So if you were to reframe, that's really what a fair amount of what I do with my coaching is reframing concepts like that. What would be the affirmation, the positive perspective on that? What would replace that? Because it's like that. This kind of feels like that idea of when you are trying to figure out what you want to eat and you list all the things that you don't, and it's going to be really hard to figure out what you want to eat. versus if you can distill down what you want, it's easier to go ahead and get it. It's easier to find a place that serves it or a place that has it available to you. So how would you reframe that to be a positive affirmation to support you in achieving that goal?
I don't know exactly which one are you mentioning because we touched on a few points, but for example, let's say that how am I reframing this? I'm just thinking, for example, that I can connect with a lot of people. I just need to reach them out on LinkedIn. Like, for example, the people of blockchain, people that know blockchain, investors, I can just reach them out. I understand that you ask a specific thing, like how do I work those limiting beliefs that I mentioned with affirmations? I don't directly work those limiting beliefs with affirmations. I just notice them. For example, I notice that I don't have people connected to me that are that know about blockchain technology and develop on blockchain technology. So I am creating a plan, an action plan, which is called relationship action plan, where I will target those people and I will approach them. This came from the Mastering Authentic Networking quest on Mindvalley. But the way I do work my affirmations, because I do work a lot of affirmations, is in my daily journal. So every day I have an affirmation of the day. For example, I'll cut this weight, but let me just open here my last affirmations. For example, yesterday my affirmation was, I am much more productive than I imagined. Putting all my projects forward with the help of the tools I have today is easier than it appears to me. I am surprised every day by how productive and valuable I am to society. I actually worked those limiting beliefs in this affirmation of yesterday, but because it's something that I do every day. So if I'm noticing, this shouldn't be my reality, this doesn't need to be my reality, I'll just write about that. It's something that I do as my day evolves in my journaling practice. This week, I wish to participate in the race for the transformation that blockchain technology will bring to the world. So this was my affirmation of the previous day. And previous to that, I did life is F epic. Life is F epic. I had a very nice day. I don't just need a team, I also need a team of founders. That's another thing that works on what we spoke. Oh, I need to connect with people that I don't need just to recruit a team. I need to recruit a team of founders. Usually, ideally, a blockchain developer and an economist for my project. And the one of today, I'm much more productive than I imagined. So this is the way I work then. I have my daily journal, and in the end of the day, I always have an affirmation of the day. And this affirmation goes to a database where I review every week or every month. To me, be mindful. It's just, you don't need to work so much on those. You just need to keep them on your mind and set the purpose. Communicate to your mind like, this is who I am. This is the road that I'm going forward. Trust your subconscious mind because it's very much more powerful than we imagine.
So what I find really interesting is what you said is you started off saying, I don't use affirmations for that, and repeated all the affirmations you use for that.
Yeah, some things escape my perception, Michael.
Here's
I trust the system. I trust the system. I'm the guy that trusts the system.
And here's the thing though, is like I said, if that limiting belief keeps coming up, unless you've actually worked on replacing it with something that is more empowering, each time you reach out to a contact that is in the cryptocurrency arena, that belief is going to come up. So that's why the use of affirmations is so important. It's that idea of, okay, I see this as a result. This is the chatter, the monkeys in my head, the mitote, if we look at the four agreements in the Toltec way. It's the noise, the really loud noise of all the people in all the situations that have determined that you can't do that. You're not that person, whatever that looks like, the paradigm as it shows up. And affirmations, for me, is a way to reframe that, to flip that. I am connected to people in the world to help make it a better place. Because you are connected with people all over the world right now with the work that you're doing. So anytime that thought of, I'm not connected to the right people, there's no way I can do this, you have evidence to the contrary. The challenge with many times that people come up with affirmations is, as I've observed it and experienced myself, is coming up with something that you actually believe, you can actually find some proof in for yourself. If I were to say, I'm a billionaire, I'm a billionaire, I'm a billionaire, I'm not. And as soon as that comes up, my ego responds, I was like, yeah, you're not. Not that you're never going to get there, but that I'm not right now. It's a matter of finding a way to shift that belief, to base it on the evidence you have to prove to yourself that this is who you are and where you're going.
And that's interesting what you say, Michael, because some people, they think that working with affirmation is exactly that, like you put a target and then you keep repeating yourself like, I'm there, I'm there, I'm there. No, you're not. And you need to understand that one of the great things that we can do as human beings, and this is something that I also need to work on, is just leaving like expectations to the side. I'm very good with leaving expectations to the side. I'm bad with making assumptions, which is very related. I make a lot of assumptions, but I'm really good on leaving expectations to the side. But it's the same kind of thing. And we need to be good at both. We can't be making assumptions of other people's, and we need to don't have expectations. But the thing about affirmation is that you remember yourself. That's the point. It's remembering yourself. It's setting a purpose, setting a course, and remembering yourself. Because I remember an event that I went one day, and this speaker was there, and I don't remember exactly how was his message, but he was talking that the problem with people that commit to something to change their life somehow, and they don't do it, it's because they make a decision today, and this decision doesn't have enough emotional charge for them to wake up tomorrow and still commit to it. So they tend to forget the decision that they made. And deciding and reaching success is actually remembering the decision that you make, remembering why every day, waking up and remembering that at some point in your life you decided. So those are why affirmations are about. And it's funny that I'm actually using those affirmations. It's because, guys, you don't need to decide to do consciously do things. Get what we repeat every time, like trust systems, trust your subconscious mind. I work this with a system. I have a journal. The journal knows that I set it there, I put it there, but it is just me reducing friction of things and opening a template, clicking in create a new entry for the day, and just filling out. So at the end of the day, I go there and put an affirmation, and I review it every day. On the week, I see all the affirmations of the past days, past 7 days. So create a system to help you have those affirmations being repeated and remembered to you, because it's all about remembering your unconscious mind of what you want to do, who you wish to be.
So there's two ways I want to take this. So I'm just going to drop them both here. Is there's two aspects of this. So one is that I want to talk about the affirmations and how Louise Hay had actually used them in her work and the books that she've created, as well as this idea on the Lisa Nichols side of things of not only having affirmations, but have them be powerful, open-ended questions. So I'll start with the first one first. So Louise Hay was a therapist for a very long time. And a lot of what she saw is what we've been talking about, is people are stuck in a very particular rhythm, a particular mindset. They're repeating something. There's an aspect of their life that they're stuck in, tended to show up not just in how they acted, but also physically how they showed up, to the point that she was able to map that certain ways that people would act, certain maladies they would come in, if they would be clumsy all the time, or if they actually had a particular respiratory issue all the time. It was a frequent thing. It actually wasn't necessarily that they were exposing themselves to risky behavior or that they were in a place where there was toxins. Many times it was actually because of their limiting belief, the thing that they repeated, the rut, the emotional rut that they got into. And she did a lot of work on crafting affirmations. I consider her the queen of affirmations, that would actually be the flip side of that, and how you can reframe that and something that you do repeat to yourself over and over again to shift your mindset away from where you are stuck to where you want to go. And she's got one book called You Can Heal Your Life. There's also a shorter compendium that's called Heal Your Body. And she's got a chart of various different dis-eases, as she calls them, of here's the malady that you're suffering with, here's the limiting belief, and this is an affirmation that can help you combat that. And it's one of the ones that keeps coming to mind because I've used it so much, is I tend to snore. And I remember the affirmation that goes with that because I've repeated it enough. I release all that is unlike love and joy in my mind. I move into the new and fresh and vital. It's something that's more prescriptive in that case for this malady, this affirmation to combat. That's one path that you can go with this. And one set of tools that can be very powerful for you if you're finding that you're repeating a pattern over and over again. The other fact,
before we go to the second one, that's very interesting, the way she deals with things, because for what I understand, you say that she mapped things that repeat, because yes, we all tend to live, we think we are also special and unique, but people tend to face, interesting. Michael is showing, say something, Michael, and put the image. Call the camera to yourself.
So here's an example of one of the tables that she has built with various diseases. As an example, fungus is one that is also in here, that the probable cause is stagnating beliefs, refusing to release the past, letting the past rule today. And her new thought patterns or affirmation is, I live in the present moment, joyous and free.
Interesting. So she even says that some diseases are related to your beliefs or some manifestations that are atypical. It is possible because there are so many things going on that we don't understand. We just don't understand. There is no way. So there might be some frequency in us that, if dysfunctional, attracts a certain type of fun. Because if you watch the Fantastic Fungi documentary, we already mentioned this before, we will see that they have consciousness at some level. It's just not our type of consciousness, but they definitely communicate somehow. They know, like, they can be dormant for a very long period, and they know when something disturbs them in order to put mushrooms out and multiply, reproduce, and other things. Like, there is a lot of things. Watch the Fantastic Fungi documentary. It is amazing. You will understand a lot of yourself as well, as I did. I believe, did you watch, Michael?
No, not yet. It's on my list. So
watch it. But yeah, I think it's interesting. And she mapped a few options, and that is very valuable as well, because we tend to fall into similar traps. So every time we find some frameworks on how to behave, it's all useful in common situations. Every time we find a framework on how to behave in common situations, it's very useful.
And it's the idea really of using the wisdom of someone who's done a lot of research, so you don't have to. And consider this more guidelines once again, because it could be any number of those things that were listed, or maybe something that's close or nearby. And it's consciousness that we need to bring to that, is when this comes up, what have I been feeling lately? What have I been thinking? What have I been ruminating on? What have I been repeating? And sometimes it's the words that are just in our heads, and those automatic negative thoughts, if we look at Dr. Daniel Amen's work. Or potentially it's the things that we say all the time that are indicators of what those beliefs are.
What about the second one?
So for the second one, Lisa Nichols takes this idea of affirmations to another level, in my opinion. It's, instead of stating as a fact, because sometimes our brain can rebel or retaliate against that thought because it's not our reality. So it then comes up with all the reasons why it's not a reality. instead posing it as a powerful question. So why am I going to be so successful today at my meeting? And have it be an open-ended question. So you're stating what
That's
could be
amazing.
potential, but then this is engaging what Bruno was talking about earlier of your subconscious mind, because you're essentially laying out a destination and programming the computer to go find a solution to get there and to plot all the paths like a huge chessboard on the ways that's going to happen. And you then let your creative juices flow. You actually allow your brain to do this magical work that it can do based on your history, based on the potential outcomes it's going to create. It really is programming that supercomputer of our subconscious mind.
And that is so interesting, Michael, because it taps into something that I understood some time ago, and I didn't remember right now, but you made me remember, which is that questions, maybe the most common way in which people work affirmations and they are not aware of is through questioning. Because every question that you pose to your mind, it will answer. This is let's treat it like a law of the universe. I don't know. Let's treat it like some law of the universe. Every question you make to your mind, it will most definitely answer. So if you look into the mirror and you are not satisfied with your weight, for example, this is the example that I remember the person used when I first heard this idea. And you look at the mirror and you say, why am I so fat? Your brain will immediately give you a bunch of evidence that it knows on why you are so fat. You say, because you eat this and you do that. And usually this voice comes with a lot of judgment, because we are in a frame of judgment when the person that looks at the mirror and makes himself this question or themselves this question, they are probably in a frame of judgment. So it will come from heavy judgment. And we need to use those questions, every question that we do to our mind in this way, Michael, like as an affirmation. It's because I use those things, but I don't have them in my mind as I don't try to, it's something that I just try to absorb the best I can and implement in my day. I don't think, oh, it's a tool or something. It's just something that I try to incorporate. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I do. And it's great to be aware of that. So what I hear you saying is that, yes, I bought that tool. It's still in the package and it's sitting on the shelf, versus I got that tool out yesterday and I used it. So this is a lot of what I tend to be is bringing tools to people so that they can see if they work for you, which requires then that preparation and practice that we talked about earlier on in our podcast episodes. And the idea of setting your mind off on a quest, because you're asking it a question, is really powerful. And like you said, is why am I so fat? Why is my relationship so crummy? Why do I hate my job? All those kind of questions fall back into that space where we originally talked about it, of a curse. We're setting ourselves up to really drill down into ways that we are going to fail in that particular situation. So that's why in many ways we talk about these as positive affirmations, is once again, focusing on what you want. And then once you come up with that and those inspired actions that your brain will come up with, because it's going to, is then taking action on them. So why am I going to crush this meeting today? It's really weird how that supercomputer of our subconscious works, because it's going to actually do all the probability and then come out with that one answer. And what we have a tendency to do is, nah, that's not what it is, because we want to discount it. It couldn't be that easy. But guess what? Most of the time when we listen to that intuition, it's when we take that step, it's amazing the outcomes that we find.
That's true, Michael. People that usually have a problem with dealing with the roadblocks, like they have, like everybody has limiting beliefs. Nobody, maybe, yeah, some people do, but most of us, we don't usually wish to reproduce everything that we receive from our culturescape. So it's common for people to struggle a little bit, wanting to change something in their lives that they don't understand. It's blocked by a limiting belief. So yeah, people usually they have to deal with those roadblocks and tend to think that it's very hard, very complicated. And as you just said, it's very simple. You just need to work with your focus, with your affirmations, remembering yourself. I try to focus on the positive. That might be the reason why I didn't identify me working on the negative beliefs. You never should work on negative beliefs. That might be something that I should have mentioned as well. And you are mentioning, but you didn't say it directly. The way you worked on it, you changed the affirmations to positive, and you even made your question like, how do you change those affirmations to positive? Because when you work on affirmations, your brain doesn't recognize the no's, the don'ts. It only works in symbolism. So if you are thinking like, don't eat too much, but when you imagine it, you visualize yourself like don't, and you visualize yourself eating a lot. So your subconscious mind is just getting the image, the symbol of eating a lot. That's the message that they are receiving. So don't fight too much. Don't be so angry. Those things don't work, because when you say don't be so angry, your mind visualizes the anger. So it's familiarizing with the anger. So the way to work affirmations is to work like I put them into the journal, the examples that I mentioned before. It is, oh, I have the resources. Like Michael, you say, I have the resources. I can do that. Why am I going to have a fantastic meeting? And then your mind goes after looking because you're prepared, and gives you evidence and confidence. It's much more simple, exactly as you said, Michael, much more simple than it imagines. And you don't need to just understand all the process, why it works. You just need to understand that there are powers, and that's why I use those things. And perhaps to exemplify them, I might not be so aware, because I just trust that the powers work. The power of my mind works. If someone gets to me and say, Tony Robbins get to me and say, hey, work with affirmations, create some anchors in your mind to when you are bad, for the moments when you are bad, you'll be able to activate that anchor, put a position or say something, do some quick ritual, and poof, your mind go back into the frame that you programmed yourself. I just trust those things. And because I trust them and I try to put them in actions and I see results, I stick to them, I commit to them. And it is very important, can change your life.
Absolutely. So I agree. You said a couple of things that I want to exemplify and shine a little bit of light on. So there is the idea of trusting that if someone has said, I did this and these are the results I got, trust the fact that you can start your own trials and see if taking that action gets your own results. And then trust that to some degree. And at the same time, I also see that as an opportunity to try it and make it better, and then elevate that and make that better so that you are elevating your best each time. Because it's a good kernel of truth to start with. But what Tony Robbins is doing is working at this scale with this people. What I'm doing is at this scale with this people and with these resources. So I need to find my own path in a lot of that. But what I also see with where affirmations can be really helpful, especially around kind of those powerful questions, and where I think some people can get stuck, is when we focus on the problem, we get more of the problem, just like you said. Why am I so fat? Then you're focusing on being fat. Why? I don't want to be angry. Well, then we're focusing on the anger. Versus, let's focus on the solutions. Let's focus on where we want to get to rather than where we've been. Because when we only focus on where we've been, we stay stuck there. We stay in that rut. We actually anchor ourselves in the past instead of actually being able to grow into our future. And that's primarily because, for me, growth is important. I think for me, if I'm not growing, then I'm dying. And I want to live a fulfilled life and impact lives and help others to lead the best version of their life. It really is that concept around outfitting people to live the best version of their life. And these questions may not necessarily be easy questions either. And sometimes I believe it's Jim Quick who talks about, is that the answer is in the questions. These questions are things that you can get better questions. You can get questions that are going to get closer to the outcome that you want. They're going to get you to an answer that's going to maybe lead you to more questions, but also may lead you to an inspired action. And that's where I want people to trust, is that first thought that comes up of, why am I going to make this sale today? You come up with all the reasons. And then how am I going to, close this sale today? Maybe in that you're going to get that bit of insight of something that seems totally off the wall and out in left field. Trust that, though. Your subconscious is already looking at the 6 steps on the chessboard for all the permutations and coming out with an answer that it believes will actually get you the outcome that you want. And I am asking people to trust that.
And about what those guides like Tony Robbins might be saying, Jim Rohn used to say, don't be a follower, be a student. It's not for you to blindly follow people, and just because it's Tony, or it's because it's Jim Rohn, or it's because it's anyone else's, you might be saying, oh, I'm gonna follow this guy. No, take a look, see, does he has results, the results that you are looking to have? Is that person living the experiences? It's all about the experiences. Is that person living the experiences you wish to live in life? If they are, can you do what they are doing? If you can't, how can you grow in order to be able to do what they do? Is it possible? Is it feasible for you? Can you grow into that direction? Because there is some growth necessary in everything that we do here. Like all this development, all this work, coaching is about putting the work. You need to put the work. It's about someone helping you to put the work efficiently. So you produce, you achieve, you are on the top of your field, whatever it is. And affirmations are definitely a way to work on that. You focus on the positive, framing the questions. It's very important, which was what you were talking about, Michael. It's very important. Frame the questions properly, and they will help you. Trust on your mind. This question of how can I do it? It's very good. Like, for example, the first time I really made money, I used to make less than $100 every. It was very little, and I did some work. It was very anxious as well because I didn't have a reassurance of how much I would make. I didn't have clients. I was doing freelances. And then one day I had a problem with my sister. She was very displeasing. She was very displeasing.
Was she upset or was she disruptive?
Disruptive. She was very disruptive. She was very disruptive. Like, it was very uncomfortable, and it was a discussion for nothing, totally unnecessary. So I thought, oh, like, I need to make my money in order to be able to have my own place and things like that. So I sit on a table with a piece of paper, write it down, learn to make your plans, writing it down. And I was like, what can I offer that other people are willing to pay for? And I made a list. And then I was like, who are the people that I know that could pay for this service? And then I made a list of possible clients. And then I was creating a plan. I figured out what could I offer, how much could I charge, who are the people that I knew that could buy those products. And I made an estimation that I could make around $600. And then I went to talk with my mother, and she was ignoring me. She didn't look at me, Michael. And I was like, Mom, like, I made a plan. I can make like around $600. And she was folding some clothes there that she ironed. And I was like, Mom, look at me. I'm talking to you. And she wasn't looking. And then I speak very seriously, Mom, I'm talking to you. Please look at me. And she turned to me very aggressive and spoke very seriously, like, Bruno, I am here to hear you on anything you wish to tell me, but don't come to me with your dreams because I don't want to know about them. And she turned away. And I was like, okay. And then the next month I made some $700. And that was very nice. Like, she even motivated me a little bit because she was very aggressive, and she wasn't like that. That moment was very atypical to her. But the point is, make those questions, question yourself, how can I do it? Because if you never question yourself, you never find an answer. And you don't need to question yourself and expect an answer, an immediate answer. Have patience. Sometimes the answer will come in the form of intuition. A week later, 2 weeks later, meditate about it, because your intuition, it will whisper back. It will be you need to be calm in order to hear it. So you need to be, if you later get it on paper as well again and reflect again on the same problem, like Michael just said, build on it. Because if you build on it, you will find the answers.
So I very much want to second that idea of writing it down and making those questions without answers. and then potentially go in and meditate or do some mindfulness practice or exercise or take a shower. Oddly enough, we come up with some of the most amazing ideas when we're in the shower, we're getting clean. It's, you know, when
That's
we don't
totally
have
true.
something to record it, to write it down. But, you know, it's, once again, it's like we mentioned before, is it's allowing your subconscious to work on that. And the next opportunity you get, write down your answers that come up. And without a filter, without any judgment, let those answers flow and come out on paper. For some people, it's actually typing it out. I know that I tend to type up my notes rather than writing it up by hand, but there's this power on writing it out. I also know another practice that I've seen people do as well, and it's the idea of figuring out a larger picture affirmation, maybe not longer, but certainly I live the best version of my life and I love every moment that I live in my life, a wider sweeping thing, and then write that down on an everyday basis. And I even heard someone suggest recently as well, as not just with your dominant hand, but then write it with your non-dominant hand too. So then you're actually engaging both sides of your brain to work on creating that in your life as well. So that's the third aspect of this use of affirmations. It's great that you have it written down. It's great that you put it in a space where you're asking lofty questions, these powerful open-ended questions on why am I so great at this? How am I going to accomplish this? How am I going to be so fantastic with this? But if there is that belief that just is always resonating there with you and slowing you down, it may require you doing, like when I was a kid in school, if we did something wrong, we had to write sentences. Sometimes it was writing it on the board, sometimes it was writing it on paper. Because
The
there's
Simpsons.
this, yes, it is mentioned in The Simpsons. This is something that I did. I can still remember the exact instance that I had to do sentences. I can remember the exact people that were involved. And that was 40 years ago at this point. I will not throw rocks wasn't the best affirmation, but I do remember writing it 100 times.
They didn't know what we know, Michael.
And we're now focusing on ways to do this, but there's a reason that it was there. Maybe not necessarily with the outcome that we're looking here as adults. And knowing what we focus on, we get more of, was not necessarily the part of the curriculum that they were teaching when I was in elementary school. But there's a power in doing this. It's why you and I have actually talked a little bit around the ideas of rituals. It's another way to ritualize getting that belief ingrained into yourself. Just like whenever you are going to church or synagogue and there's certain rituals that you go through as part of your activating that aspect of your life, because it then connects you physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually with that idea. So I don't want this to just be a one-stop shop. It's not just a one tool, because everyone's path is different. So now that we've gone through at least 3 ways to do this, I'm curious, for those of you who are listening, what works for you? Have you tried some of these and found that they worked awesome, or not so much? This is an opportunity for us to learn from others as well. So I don't want this to only be a one-way thing where, yes, Brewer and I are having this fantastic conversation. I'm enjoying it quite a bit, but you out there listening, you're part of our conversation too. So let us know what affirmation style works for you. What has it helped you shift in your life? And it may be a 1 millimeter shift. It may be 1,000 millimeter shift, maybe a 5-mile shift. But what has that helped you do in your life? So as we look at wrapping up here, I think Bruno touched on this quite a bit, and in just the limiting beliefs that he came up with. There's it's a hypnotherapist that we actually see on the Mind Valley platform as well. She's got a couple of videos out there of kind of the baseline curse that we as human beings tend to put on ourselves. And that's that I'm not enough just the way that I am. I'm not strong enough. I'm not smart enough. I don't have enough money. I'm not enough this. I'm not enough that. And her affirmation is really simple. And it's simple enough that it's 3 words. And once I actually learned this, I printed out little pieces of paper in different fonts, and I put it up in different parts of my house. And I was actually lucky enough that this phrase is something that, I'm not sure if any of you have this, but the letters of the alphabet that you can actually put as magnets on the fridge, there is no duplicate letters in this phrase. And it's, like I said, it's really simple, and something that I think that in those times whenever I'm feeling down about myself is one that I have to come back to. That's a simple phrase of, I am enough. Marissa Peer talks about writing that on the mirror, putting it as a bookmark in your book, putting it as the background on your phone, just to remind you that we are suggesting tools on how you can grow and become better, so you can elevate your best, so you can actually play your best intentional game. But in the duality, all of this, it also, for us to get more of what we want, we need to realize that we already have everything that we need in order to get there, because we already are enough.
That's great. And also, I think that we should always be mindful, like in the beginning, when I was not completely aware of the things that I am doing in order to improve my life, you should always be mindful of creating those systems. Michael just mentioned, spreading around your house an affirmation, I am enough. And you'll be visualizing that. In the mirror is amazing because you are seeing the affirmation and you're looking to yourself. So you are deeply connecting with yourself and recognizing yourself and say, I am enough. And you're seeing yourself, you're visualizing yourself when you think of this sense of completion, of that you are enough. So that's really great, because I might not be the things that I wish to be today, but if I create systems around me, if I do the affirmations, if I remember myself, if I look into always into this direction, setting up this purpose, whatever it is, whatever the affirmation you are doing, you are working on, you will eventually get to the point where you just, when someone asks you a question like Michael asked me, how do you work your affirmations, Bruno? It's not a long time that I'm working with this daily journal. So maybe there will be a time in the future where I'll be more conscious, probably after this moment, and where I'll be doing this for so long that I'll just say, hey, Michael, you know what? I work there in my diary. I am this kind of person, because this is something that I realized. I don't know if I communicated this well enough, but something that I realized is that you decide to become, and then you create the structure around you for that which you wish to become. And because you change your structure, you change your routine, you change your dynamics, you change your frequency, you start to shift into that direction. You don't immediately shift who you are, but you start to shift into that direction. And if you really repeat, if you really remember yourself, if you really do the affirmations and spread out the words in your house in order for you to remember the things, you will eventually, in the moment of decision, you will eventually remember who you wish to be. And there will be a shift there where the decision will be made and it will not be the person that you wanted to change before. It will be the person that you plan, that you envision. You will be a self-actualized person, like Michael teaches people to be into the life book process.
So thank you, for Bruno, for digging into this with me. I do want to wrap up today with our podcast. I've really enjoyed talking about this and digging into it, because there's, like you said, having the right systems for you, the right reminders, the right setup, the environment that is going to allow you to be the best version of yourself. And I want to go off on like 12 different tangents, but we'll save that for a later session and dig into that. So thank you. This is the end of the Elevate Your Best podcast. My name is Michael Dankloss of Elevate Your Best.
And I'm Bruno Martins from the Cyber Journey. And don't forget, guys, subscribe, give us some support, and tell us if you wish for us to go further into affirmations. I think, Michael, that there is a lot of things we could discuss further into affirmations, and even come with some how-tos, like of those, like you mentioned, and even share a little bit of the affirmations like we did. I am enough. It's a simple one, very good. Talk to us if you wish for us to talk more about affirmation. Bye-bye, guys. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Have a fantastic rest of your week, and we'll see you next week. Peace out.